Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a fantastic day because we have a great show planned for you, where in the second part of the program, we will be doing computer and technology news, where we try to keep up to date with all the happenings with technology. Always a fun segment. You definitely want to check that out. But equally, if not more, well, probably way more interesting is our first segment, where we will be having an interview, as we are wont to do, but this time with IBM. That's right. It's been a little while since they joined us, and we have their research arm here to talk about, well, what better, artificial intelligence, and figure out when I am probably going to lose my job to a computer. And hey, we have the one, the only Mr. Ron Hoory here to tell us all about, just how far AI has come, because there's been a lot of hype. Obviously, we do the news a lot, and we keep hearing the robots are coming. I talk about it with my personal friends, and they always ask, when is Terminator coming? And I think we're a good distance off. That's a good thing, but great strides are being made. So just a moment before we get to them. And I need to mention computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything for today's show. Be that a link to the archive or any kind of show notes, anything we mentioned here on the program today, including links to our guest website, you can find it at computeramerica.com. And while you're there, check out the social media contest brought to you by Logitech, as well as the live video stream, which you can also find over at twitch.tv. So all that and more at Computer America, including reviews, articles, so on and so forth. Now, why don't we go ahead, jump into our interview with our guest today. And as I mentioned before, IBM Research, and here joining us is Dr. Ron Hoory, and he is the manager for speech technologies at IBM Research. So, Ron, thank you for joining us, and I hope you're doing well.
Hi, good morning. Yes, I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So you sound good, and why don't we, before we get started, tell us a little bit about the division that you work for with IBM. How long have you been with IBM doing research, and how long has IBM been working with speech, kind of speech technologies?
Okay. So first of all, I am from a lab in Haifa, Israel. So IBM Research has I think 13 research labs around the world. The largest is, of course, in Yorktown Heights near New York. And we work together in different interesting research topics. I personally, I have been working on speech for, I guess, 25 years or so already, and I'm just fascinated with this topic. and there has been a lot of pioneering work in IBM over the years. Actually, IBM was one of the pioneers in speech recognition. That was in the 60s and 70s. I have been working, mostly focusing on the other side, which is synthesizing speech or text-to-speech, which is also a focus of interest in IBM Research labs.
So, and before we get into really anything that you're kind of researching, I'm kind of interested as to what you think when it comes to actually, I don't know, doing this kind of research, because we've seen commercial products come to market. The most notable, I think, would be for a lot of people would be like Dragon. We have text-to-speech interfaces, things kind of like Siri that will read stuff to you. We've had these products, we've seen them for a little bit. Obviously, a lot of room for improvement, but just kind of out of the gate, they have a place, but they haven't completely displaced a keyboard and a mouse or any other kind of form of input. What do you think is the exciting part about synthesizing speech, or what do you think continues to drive the interest in the area that you're exploring?
Yes. So I think from the research point of view, I think the past couple of years have been really exciting, because I think for the first time the computerized speech is becoming very close to natural speech, human speech. And that's both exciting and maybe also a bit frightening in a way. But I think that from the research point of view, I think for a long time we have not really been able to make computer speech sound like natural human speech, and now it's beginning to get there. So that's something that I think is very exciting. I think the same thing is happening also from the speech recognition point of view, where accuracy of speech recognition is becoming really near human, or sometimes even better than human. So I think that these all, from the research point of view, are very exciting. Now, one other thing that I want to mention is the work we are doing on Project Debater, which is kind of a grand challenge. It's a machine that can debate with humans. And this has also been a very challenging and exciting topic from the speech point of view, because when you do these debates, yes, of course, you need to be able to extract ideas and arguments that will support your position, but you also need to say them in a way which will be persuasive, that will be easy to follow by human, that will actually convince people that you are right. So that's also something that has not been done in the past, and this is another level of challenge that we have been working on in the past couple of years, and I think we have done this in quite a nice success.
Right. So a couple of things here. The first one is, because you are one of the people helping to bring technology like this to market, you're not allowed to say that's kind of scary, because everyone else is supposed to be scared and you're supposed to be excited. So let's just say that.
Okay. I appreciate that, but still, I think that the thing about researchers is that yes, they are aware of the risks, and they should not, I think, ignore them. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, we have in our ability, let's say our research abilities, to also generate solutions that will make sure that people will not misuse these technologies, and people are working on it. So I think, yes, I agree that we are focusing on the technology and on advancing the technology, but I do think that we need to also be aware of the risks and make sure that we find solutions to how to prevent them and how to mitigate these risks.
Right. So, and you brought up Project Debater. I think that's a good place to start. We pulled it up on the video portion. If anyone wants to go check it out, we're going to poke through the, kind of what you have posted here on the website. And I was actually talking with some family last night. I'm like, IBM's working on a program that will actually debate people in real time. And one of my family members was like, great. Now when I'm going to ask my toaster to toast my bread and go dark, the toaster's going to say, I don't know, Ben, you remember last time you went dark, you really didn't like it. I don't think you should go dark. It made me realize that obviously it was just a joke, but there's a clear difference between arguing, disagreeing, and debating. Debating is a very structured form of conversation between two people, or in this case, an AI and a person. Talk about why you decided to go with the debate, because there's been a lot of, and I'm not looking to get into politics or anything like that, but there's been a lot of talk when it comes to technology about the idea of bubbles, about the lack of challenging of ideas, because technology and social media tends to put us into positions that we see content that they know we will already associate with. You are creating a program that is intentionally going to try to challenge our beliefs and ideas. That's different when it comes to technology. Why did you feel a debate program would be the best next course?
Yeah, so I think a debate is very important, not because we want to show that a computer can debate humans, and we're not talking here about a game or like we had the Jeopardy or chess grand challenges before. But rather, what we want to do is basically to help people to make evidence-based decisions. So basically, if you have a problem, let's say you are a doctor or a lawyer or a CEO of a company, and you need to make a decision. Now, there are tons of information out there on the web and in many, many other places. By the way, some of it is maybe misinformation. Some of it is fake news, and on the web there can be many different sources of information. Not all of them are reliable. And the idea here would be to help the human to make an informed decision by telling him, here are the pros, here are the arguments against, here are the arguments for this, and now these are all arguments that are based on facts, on evidence that we found. Here you can look where we found them, and basically you should use them to make the decision. And what we do, on the voice part is basically to frame all this into a kind of a speech that will speak these arguments, and actually you can ask it to say the for or the against. I mean, you can tell it, okay, now tell me a speech that will speak against this motion, let's call it, or you can tell it the opposite. So it's a kind of a tool that would help people frame their thoughts and and find the ideas out there and evidences that will help them actually make their own decisions at the end. So this is, I think, the correct way to see the debater.
Yeah, it's and obviously that there's you summed it up in about 2 minutes, and I'm sure that this is years and years and years of research to get to this point. Talk about and we have a couple questions here as it concerns to, I guess, the delivery, the voice of the artificial intelligence. Having, I guess most people would be familiar with the artificial voice of IBM Watson, maybe from TV commercials or things like that. But talk about real quick just the delivery of this argument, because I believe we have some questions here about choosing voice actors, and I believe you went with a female voice instead of a male voice. Talk about, and I guess a better question that would encapsulate that as well. Talk about the interface for how you see this happening. Is this going to be potentially someone talking to their computer, and they ask it a loaded question like you were talking about, and then they sit back and kind of interact with it that way? Or is this going to be a very specific program that's going to be sold to, I don't know, you said doctors and lawyers? How do you foresee the debater, kind of being integrated into professionals' lives?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm I'm a researcher, so
Okay.
these are probably not the questions that not the sort of question that I could answer. I mean, I could just tell you what it can be used for, but the way it will be sold or the way it will
Okay.
be used by people is is not my my area. But you did ask about choosing the voice
Yes.
actors. Is that something that you want me to?
Yeah, please.
Because I can speak about that. Sure.
I apologize. I'm used to kind of interviewing PR and marketing and things like that. But you're right. No, let's go with the voices, because that's something that I think up until this point we've had the majority of artificial intelligence, or I would say smart speakers and things like that. The majority have been female. To see that you went with female, kind of continues the trend. But what's the reasoning behind that? Talk about finding the right voice. Because you can't have one that sounds too robotic. You can't have one that sounds too familiar to the others out there. Talk about finding the right voice and how you came to that decision.
Right. Okay. So first you ask about the reason for having female voices and not male voices. I guess it's something which is based on a lot of research which has been done with actual people, and that's the preference people have. I mean, I'm not sure what is the exact reason for that, but people somehow connect better with a female voice. That's something that has been researched, and there have been studies about that. So I think that's the main reason. Again, it doesn't mean that there are no male voices, and the Watson text-to-speech has male voices, because at the end it's a preference of each user, and some user may actually like better the male speakers. But if you talk about the general population, and you go and you do a questionnaire and ask people what they prefer, then probably both women and men would at the end say a female voice. So that I would say is the main reason. Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of how we choose the actual voice, and let me give you the example of the debater, because this is something I know from very closely. So basically, the way it's done is very much like what you do in when we want to pick an actor for a movie, for example. So basically, you need to get in this case something like 20 voice actors, different voice actors. And by the way, they were both male and female, because at that time we were not even clear that in this case of the debater it would be better to have a male or female. Mm-hmm. And there were about 50%. And we made actual auditions. Basically what we did, we gave them some text to say. We told them, you need to speak it like you were debating. So, it's not only having a nice voice or being able to read clearly and so on, but basically they needed to more or less act the part of a debater who now wants to convince other people. And after doing that with these 20 men and women, we narrowed down we had, I guess, like a process. First, we narrowed it down to about 5. And then from these 5, which were let's call them the semi-finalists, we chose one speaker, which was the final speaker. Her name was Eliza Foss, and she was the one who was picked for the debater. And I think her voice is both pleasant and authoritative. In this case, it's very important to have an authoritative voice, because you need to actually convince people that you know what you're talking about. So, and she was very good at that. She was also very good on being directed. So again, I'm comparing it to an actor in a film. So,
Right.
you tell the voice talent, now do this, now speak like this, now speak like that. So not all the voice actors know how to do it, and she could do it very well. She could do it almost with, you didn't have to say twice, just say one time. She got you, and she did it very well, very fluently. And so I think those were the reasons why we chose her. And of course, the decision was not made by one person. It's not that just one person heard her and decided about her, but basically we did these auditions. We recorded a bunch of sentences and debate material, and then we gave them to many people across IBM to listen to, and and each one had maybe different preferences, but at the end, most people liked her the best. So that was the way it was done.
Right, and of course, I'm sure that because this is an artificial intelligence, if you ever wanted to, I guess, add different voices, because like you said, there were preferences. I'm guessing that in the future, if you so choose, it wouldn't be impossible to have another voice actor come in and kind of fill that role again, right?
Absolutely, but you should understand that in this case, the work that we needed to do in order to take her these recordings. So maybe I can maybe say it briefly how this was done. So basically,
Sure.
we created a script of text that has debate material. Basically, some of it was transcript of real debates between humans. Some of it was basically text that came out of the computer, out of the debater system that we had that time. And she had to read all these, or act actually, all these sentences. It came out to something like 20 hours of speech, which is a lot. And then after we had that, basically we had to run a lot of tools, software tools, and analysis tools on the speech, so we could basically not just having the speech there, but basically a lot of annotations on the speech, like small segments. For each segment, which is the sound or the phoneme that was used, the duration of the phoneme, what is called the pitch of the phoneme. So all this was a lot of work. Also, we annotated things like emphasis, for example, specific words that were emphasis in the text. And all that was done in order for later to be able to use different AI algorithms, some of them deep learning, if you know that concept, that basically go through all that data that was recorded and learn basically, for example, how to change the intonation, how to generate intonation given the text. So, for example, I can actually ask a specific word or phrase to be emphasized now, if it's a very important word. And basically, we learn how to do this out of the actual speech from Eliza. Using this learning mechanism, the deep learning. So I would say, in answer to your question, yes, it is certainly possible to do it for other people, and we have done it for other purposes and use cases for other people. It's certainly possible, but you need to work in order to do that. It's not. You need to find the person. You need to record him. You need to analyze their speech, and that's something that is would take some work, which we did.
Yeah, I mean, there are many people out there who do work as voice actors and are doing this line of work, and I always assumed that there was a reason that we didn't have 100 different voices, every single day for a new artificial intelligence. So thank you for going into that. That's a side of AI that we had never had explained to us. So let's kind of move back to the debater and just kind of how that works. And I think a good way to kind of continue on with that is talk about, obviously you have tested it with a number of different kinds of arguments. Are there any arguments that that maybe you tried out with the debater and you decided that, oh, okay, that's that was eerily concise, or that was eerily very thorough? Like, were you surprised at how good it was with any particular argument that you, or topic that you gave it?
Well, okay. So again, my focus is on the speech part, but
Okay.
I can try to answer because I do. I'm like everyone. I listen to these debates, and yes, sometimes these arguments are surprising. I mean, sometimes the arguments that it gives are. It can go both ways. Sometimes, it gives arguments that no human would have given or thought about. So sometimes you are impressed by this kind of arguments, but on the other times, it's sort of not really what would what would. So it can go both ways. It can be a good thing and a bad thing. That's what I'm saying, because it's quite different from the way a human would go. One thing is that it really has a very strong power of extracting tons and tons and tons of information from all over. So this is something a human can't really do. So I think that in some cases you can find very, very strong arguments that people somewhere have said. And you can make these arguments, and that would be very good. But on the other hand, sometimes the better thing to do would be to when you try to convince someone, is to make your own arguments or thoughts and so on. And I think that in this case, you don't always find this type of inferences. With these extracted arguments. So I would say that it has a big advantage over a human, for sure. But on the other hand, I think that also a human sometimes has advantages over the debater system. So it goes both ways.
Right. So something that might be, and I apologize for that, but something that might be more relevant to what you do, a large part of debate, and I'm an expert in debate now because I took one semester my senior year in high school. But in debate, thank you. I know it's very impressive. But I will say that sometimes you could kind of pick and decide where your opponent was kind of shaky in their argument by them using maybe language that they themselves didn't really understand, their inflection as they read it. You can kind of tell that they didn't understand the concept, but they were rather just kind of just speaking the facts. Obviously, does the debater, does Watson speech to text, how far, is it clearly just what you say gets put in and then analyzed, or does it take in any kind of other information from tone, inflection, maybe disjointed sentences, and it'll say that, maybe you don't really understand this, try to come back with this? Like, is there other information it pulls from people's speech other than just the words that they say?
Yeah, so okay. So first of all, in regards to the content, to understanding what the person, the opponent has said, so that is of course part of what the debater does, and it's something that has been worked on a lot, because it's very hard to do. If an opponent now is saying very elaborate arguments, it can be quite hard to understand the exact meaning and so on. And I think the debater in many cases does it very well. So it does it so it can actually later on rebut and basically answer the opponent argument. Now, in terms of your question about inflections, and so I don't believe it does that. I think we have some research about emotion recognition, but in my opinion, it's really not the main thing. The main thing is the content, and I think the reason is. And this is something that you as someone who has debated. I don't know. Maybe you have other experience, but my experience from listening for many debates of humans one against the other is that really these things are quite subtle, and the main thing is what the debater actually says. I mean, the ideas he actually says. So yeah, I agree with you that at some point this could be very useful to do and to understand the subtle meaning, or let's take things like irony or sarcasm and things like that. But I think at this point, I believe that we are still, on the level of trying to understand the basic meaning, and those things are, I would say, secondary to the main thing, which is trying to understand what the opponent is actually saying.
Right. Now, and again, it's just the idea that I guess I still have it caught in my head that artificial intelligence is really trying to go to that level of just being a person. But I guess an AI can also just be ingesting the information and then processing it as best it can, and kind of just being the best digital assistant kind of deal that it can. But still taking it.
No argument for me. We actually, one of our projects in my group, which was not related to debater, but was about recognizing emotions in speech. So emotions like let's take frustration. Suppose you are now in a call center, you're talking to an agent in a call center. And,
lots of frustration there, right?
Being able to actually detect that this person is frustrated, this person is angry, or this or other things, or this person is satisfied, is very, very important for sure. That's no question about it. But even there, I would say that it's not just the tone of your voice. It's of course also what you actually say.
Right.
And you need to look at both. You need to look at the content, and you need to look at the tone. And I think for me it's a 50-50 thing. I mean, if you get one, I mean, just think about it, that someone can talk in a very calm tone, but say very angry kind of things. But it can be the opposite. It can say neutral kind of text, but in a very angry tone. So you need to look at both, and one is probably not enough. So yeah, I think I certainly think that this is an important area, and
right.
But I think we're still not there, and I'm not talking just about IBM. I don't think that the emotion recognition as a general topic has been at this point cranked by AI systems. If you think about voice assistants, or I don't know, Siri you mentioned, or other systems, or Watson, basically no, they don't really do that, right?
But
they just listen to the content and more to the not so much to the tone.
Right, yeah, but it's in the cards, and I'm sure that really a lot of the different projects you have going on over at IBM are eventually going to have some kind of are going to have some interplay with one another. So,
absolutely. I think many things that we are doing now, I think in a few years will become mainstream for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think if you look at Debater, for example, Project Debater, it started in 2012. So it's 6 years.
Wow.
It took 6 years until we have this wonderful research system. And I think when they started working on it in 2012, I think it was just in the heads of people, in their minds and in their vision. and it took a long time until it actually became a reality.
So, and I think this is a pretty good way to start to lead into wrapping up this interview. But 6 years ago, maybe just maybe behind the scenes, it was a much more relevant term. But as for just kind of being in the consumer space, AI, deep learning, so on and so forth, that became common, kind of common in people's languages. I'd say 2016. So you guys are a couple ahead of what we see in the consumer space. And I would say, you can correct me on any of this, but I'd say that, things like GPUs and processing power and parallel thinking, parallel processing, all that became much more advanced. And we've made a lot more advancements since then, and we continue to work on it. My question for you, as far as your research is concerned, what are you excited about in the future? Like, let's imagine that whatever bottleneck, whatever hurdle that you are struggling with now is solved in the next couple of years. What has you excited about what you're doing with IBM?
So I think that what excites me is, like I said, is bringing computer or to AI systems to a level where they actually, I don't want to say become human, but basically can show characteristics which are human in nature. I talked before about the voice or the speech. But there are many other things. I mean, if you think about it, okay, we mentioned also understanding emotions, also expressing emotion, being able, if the computer now wants to express a certain emotion or even a subtle emotion, that's something that today is still quite far. And if you think also about understanding, so it's not enough just to recognize what the person has said. The ability to understand the meaning and infer, and I think all these things are to me are very exciting. I think that right now we are just in the initial steps of doing that because of, as you say, the deep learning, the GPUs. And all that. So we are beginning to understand how to basically build AI systems that will start to behave like a human, but still very, very. Let's say it's like a baby human. And I think the exciting thing would be to get to a point where these machines are actually able to, let's say, to think, to make their own. And yeah, I am aware that there are also risks, and I think that's something that nobody can ignore, and we have to make sure that things are not misused and so on. But I think from the research point of view, this is absolutely very exciting.
What I picked up from that was that I am about 16, 18, 21 years away from having a beer with Watson. That is what I have picked up from that. But I would say, and you're right, that's a very exciting field. And what really happens when, people I would say people on the internet, but what if, other people or AIs that you interact with on the internet can actually talk to you or, actually converse and fill the role of a person, whether or not that's directed by another entity. But like you said, it's different. It's a little bit scary, but also very, very interesting. And everyone, Dr. Ron Hoory, I want to thank you so much for giving us your time. This is very interesting. If people want to find out more, where would you say is the best place that they go to find out about what you're doing?
Yeah, so there are in the IBM website, IBM Research website, there is a lot of material. For example, on Project Debater, I'm sure There are many stories, but basically on the IBM website, I think is the best place to start, including a lot of scientific references and a lot of material that can be good for people to look at.
Very, very, very cool, and we'll include links to that all up in the show notes, and it'll be great. So, and again, Doctor, thank you so much, and we look forward to, of course, hearing about what you guys do in the next couple of years, because if you were able to do this in 6 years, another 6 years is just going to be really change a lot in our lives. So, thank you so much once again, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. And so for computer and technology news today, we have a couple of stories, and I think for the first one that we're going to do is actually from this one. So this is Engadget, and it's different. I mean, this shows the bleed over from the transition from theaters to being able to stream everything in your home. I mean, let's face it, the theater industry was there because no one had a television in their home. No one was able to watch these things. And then that, kind of became its own industry with getting people to come out, have an experience, and watch these things in theaters. But hey, if they really wanted to, there are a number of ways to, actually, how do you say it? There are a number of ways to actually watch these things. If they wanted to stream it live on the internet, everyone could watch it right now, right here, today. But now here we have this article from Engadget, and it's a bit different. It shows a different side of movies and how this transition can go from the ability to watch anytime, anywhere that we want to, hey, how do we mix that and blend that with theaters? And this could be a way. So Aquaman, you may have heard of it. It's a huge, huge, huge movie coming from the likes of DC Universe. So I think a lot of people have been looking forward to this one. But if you are an Amazon Prime member, if you have bought into the machine, then Amazon Prime members can watch Aquaman a week early. That's right. Saying that the early showings will happen 7 p.m. local time in about 1,000 theaters. Saying that Aquaman has only appeared briefly in Batman vs. Superman and as a member of the Justice League, and was just one of the few good things in two pretty awful movies. Dang, Engadget, no chill. And as such, the character's first solo movie has more promise than the other DC Extended Universe films. Amazon has announced that Prime members will get to see the movie on December 15th, nearly a full week ahead of the December 21st public debut. There you go. So keep that in mind. They said that members can buy up to 10 tickets and see the film in 1,000 theaters, including AMC, Regal, National Amusement Theater, and ArcLight Cinema. They said that, much like Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, Aquaman might do well on the strength of its charismatic lead actor, Jason Momoa. And Warner Brothers, the studio behind the movie, was reportedly less than thrilled with the 2017 Justice League, but quite happy with Momoa. And Aquaman will supposedly focus on the character's Atlantis-based origin story. It also stars Amber Heard, William Dafoe, Dolph Lundgren, and Nicole Kidman. So, I won't lie. This article seemed like a bit of an advertisement, but I did find it interesting that DC would go this route in trying to get people, of course, into theaters, but then mixing it with Prime. I don't know. Obviously, Amazon would have had to pay for this. I don't know why they're trying to blend it in with Amazon Prime. But, it goes to show that a service that lets you watch movies at home and would theoretically let you never have to walk into a movie theater again is trying to bridge that gap. And trying to say that, yes, you can watch things from home. Yes, we can do that for you, but we can also get you into the theaters. I don't know if that's going to work long term, but as of this moment, it's the route they're going. So we'll definitely see if that has any legs, or I guess fins. Yep. So there you go. That's the first story. Lots of different ones. How about we talk about? Let's discuss YouTube. Speaking of movies, why not? Keep the theme going. YouTube, if you have not been paying attention over the past couple of weeks, we have this instance here of actually YouTube releasing on its platform, you can watch free movies. That's right. Yes, they're ad supported. So think of Hulu, but YouTube is borrowing a page from Voodoo's playbook in a manner of speaking, saying that Ad Age has confirmed that Google Video Service quietly started adding free ad-supported movies to its movies and shows section, and this happened last month. Saying that that's of course super quiet for a company like YouTube, but they said that the roughly 100 title collection largely revolves around old or unspectacular movies that are long past their money-making prime, such as Legally Blonde, Agent Cody Banks, and the original Terminator. However, that makes it an easy fit. Studios can rake in some ad revenue, which YouTube hasn't said how it shares ad money, from people wanting to watch a classic during a sleepy afternoon. So this is obviously an option that I guess even the owners of the movies themselves at this point have said, you know what? We can't even sell Legally Blonde at this point. We can't even give it away. So, well, actually, I take that back. We can give it away. We can give it away to YouTube and potentially earn a bit of money. So they said that obviously, company product management director Rohit Dewan hinted that there could one day be a way for advertisers to sponsor individual movies. You could watch the first movie in a franchise when its sequels hit theaters, for instance. And whether or not this would happen depends on how the studios evolve their digital strategies. They're used to paid services, but ad-supported movies are relatively new. Although, let's be honest here. Ad-supported movies are not new. It happens every single day on tons of channels on regular cable. It's just ad-supported movies on the internet, being able to stream them anytime, anywhere, and not just put them on, let's say, the 11 o'clock time slot on AMC. No, that is something new, that people can sit down and watch a movie and watch it with ads. Definitely not new for the industry, and I think they're going to take to this like a bear to honey. It's really going to be a natural fit. So let's see how long it takes them to jump on board. Now, as Ad Age observes, this could be in part about creating a more tempting target for advertisers. YouTube knows some companies are reluctant to run ads alongside some of its user-uploaded videos, especially after incidents where ads were linked to hate speech clips. This would give nervous companies a safe place to advertise that would reflect well on their brand. Obviously, as user-created content gets out there, and it's a bigger and bigger, the market's only getting bigger. The ability for someone to go out and purchase a webcam, purchase a microphone, start a YouTube channel, and start to build an audience, that ability has been there for a number of years now, and that's not going to go away. I think people really do appreciate content that fits them, that they enjoy, and isn't created just by a handful of people. It's really democratizing the ability to create content. But for advertisers and for companies to be wary that that maybe that their company plays a 5-second ad in front of a person who goes completely bonkers and loses it. I think they're being a little bit too sensitive when it comes to, obviously, you don't want your product to be associated with the content of the video. But I think that a lot of these people make it very clear that they don't support some of the stuff that does get through the content filter of YouTube. Which, by the way, isn't perfect. YouTube is still working on it. It's still refining its message, and it's going to keep changing. It's more of a matter of, I don't know, how do I put this? It's more of a matter of not so much protecting brands from weird content on YouTube, and this is again coming from the point of view of YouTube. It's how do we get people to understand that YouTube is automated, that YouTube as a platform is not meticulously handcrafted as I think they could have been in the past. So for YouTube to really be concerned about people's brands and what videos that they're associated with, and potentially giving movies with ad space, I don't feel that you take the bread and butter of YouTube and start to direct advertisers away from that, because it's the bread and butter because that's what people enjoy. That's what people like, that they can go to YouTube and they can watch, maybe not completely ad-free content, but content that is made by people that they know, like, trust, what have you. So I don't know how well this is going to work for the reasons that YouTube wants it to, but I think it will work more for the fact that, hey, ad-supported movies have been around for a long, long time. So with that being said, and by the way, check us out, youtube.com/Computer America. But I digress. Let's see. We have a couple more stories here, and man, running short on time. So a couple of interesting ones. How about this? So I've done this. I'll be upfront with all of you. Social media, after so long, this year, really this year, and of course past years, social media has become something that I've been trying to avoid. It's just the way it is. I know that as a public entity, as someone who does kind of what they do, that I should be completely tuned in, plugged in with social media. I should be having conversations on Twitter. I should be making interesting posts on Facebook. I should be doing XYZ. I should really be promoting, I guess, the Computer America brand on social media. But for my own personal health and as a show of an example, I really do think that social media has some very fundamental problems. Social media was not created with people's mental health in mind. Social media was not created so that people could feel good about themselves. Social media was created to harvest data. There's really, and Facebook can say all day long until they're blue in the face about how they are connecting people around the world. And while that may have been true at this point, that's not their goal. People have been connected, and they do not pack up and say, "Good job, everyone. We've done it." They say, "All right, we need even more people," and that just leads me to believe that, they're in it for the data. So this coming to us from Business Insider and Mr. Nick Bastone, saying that a new study finds that cutting your time on social media to 30 minutes a day reduces your risk of depression and loneliness. That's right. And that is of course a study according to the University of Pennsylvania, and the service designed to help us connect with people, feel less socially isolated, feel more more connected with one another, is actually having the opposite effect. And they're finding that less of it could actually be more. So they said that found that limiting one's social media to half an hour a day per day can lead to significant improvements in well-being. And specifically, less time scrolling through photos of friends and old high school acquaintances can lower rates of depression and loneliness. So not even so much communicating on social media, but so much just consuming content on social media, I guess is their point. So the study, which was published in December's Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology, was one of the first to show a cause and effect relationship between social media usage and mental health issues, where most studies previously on the subject had shown only a correlation between the two. So obviously correlation does not mean causation, but this was actually this journal was one of the first to publish a study that did show actual causation, that social media made these feelings happen, and not just that these feelings were associated with social media usage. So in the study, 143 graduate students, a little bit small, but it's okay, were tested over the course of 2 semesters. And the students were either put into a group that was instructed to limit their social media usage on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat to 30 minutes per day total, with 10 minutes each per platform. So that's not even, like, if you really take a look at it, it's not 30 minutes of Facebook, it's 10 minutes of Facebook, it's 10 minutes of Instagram, so it's even less than that. But I digress, saying that, or assigned to a control group where they were told to carry on with their normal social media habits. After 3 weeks, the students were asked questions to assess their mental health, including social support, fear of missing out, loneliness, autonomy, and self-acceptance, anxiety, depression, and self-esteem. All things that you would hope that you score highly on, or I guess, well on. You don't want to score highly with depression. But anyways, saying that here's the bottom line. The lead researcher for the study, Melissa Hunt, told Science Daily, quote, using less social media than you normally would leads to significant decreases in both depression and loneliness. These effects are particularly pronounced for folks who were more depressed when they came into the study. So, yep, and of course, let's pick up on this last part here. Neither of the groups showed improvements in social support, self-esteem, or autonomy and self-acceptance. However, in both groups, perhaps by simply being part of the study, students found that their levels of anxiety and fear of missing out declined. And in general, the important to remember that studies like these can't test for every single factor that affect mental health. So, yeah, there's a few caveats to this study. The article is not the end all be all of social media. It's clearly this will be a personal choice, and this will either be another log on the fire for you if you feel like quitting. But you have to remember that this study, pertains to a very specific person. These are these are undergraduate students. Unless you are a college age 18 to 25 students who is going to college, the circumstances of this kind of the circumstances of the people being tested probably don't match you. If you're older, if you have a job, if you are retired, if any number of things, there's going to be a lot of different influences on your life. And let's face it, hey, as you get older, you know more people, you lose touch with more people, it's harder to make friends, that's for sure. And hey, maybe being more connected on social media could actually be a boon. Studies like these, they're important, but we need a lot more of them to really, get a full picture. But it does show that as far as younger people, people still going to college and maybe, going to high school, maybe people in the academic setting who could be surrounded by people and, be surrounded by their peers all the time and yet still feel socially isolated. Maybe too much social media could be that factor. The whole fear of missing out, that something else somewhere else is happening that they need to know about. Maybe we need to reduce that and overall our social media dependency. And maybe this study just makes it clear that that's more important for younger people. So, again, studies like these, it's very hard to test for exactly what you're testing for. Very hard to cut out all of the noise when it comes to studies like these. But hey, it's certainly worth a try. So I think with that being said, and music should be playing in the background right now. So I think, hey, there we go. So I think with that being said, we are just about out of time. I know. I want to thank our guests today. I believe, and actually, our guest today, IBM. It was a lot of fun, and we hope that you enjoyed that segment. And of course, computer and technology news, always a blast. Be sure to check us out tomorrow here on the Computer America program, as we will be talking to Epson. That's right, we'll be talking to Epson as we talk about printers, and I believe it's their EcoTank, I believe. But we're going to hear all about printers, what's new, what's different, and how is that industry doing. So everyone, thank you for joining us here on Computer America. Thank you so much. And until next time, have a great day. Be safe. Don't use too much social media. And have a good one. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.